Okay, Ben, now we're just going to have a brief 15-second Facebook delay that I warned you about as we stream over to meet our mighty mystery fans. We're so excited to host you today. And it looks like we are live. Welcome, everyone. I'm your on-air host, Sara DiVello, and I'm thrilled to be hosting featured author Ben Mcpherson all the way from Norway today as his brand new book, Love and Other Lies, debuts in the US. Ben, welcome to Mighty Mysteries. Tell us about your book.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here, Sarah, and such a sort of brilliant thing to be able to do because, as you know, we're locked down. You guys are locked down too, but it's just brilliant to be able to talk to you about this book, Love and Other Lies, which I spent 4 years writing. It is the most difficult thing I have ever done beyond family, I guess, children and marriage. It's a book about a family that loses a daughter in the course of a terrorist attack on an island in a youth camp. And it's, I guess, about 3 journeys, really, about her sister's journey, her father's journey, and her mother's journey. They're all of them trying to understand what has happened, each from a very different place. So the narrator of the book is her father, and it's told in the first person. But it takes, I think, quite a while to start to realize that the father is a foreigner. He doesn't really get what's happened. You know, he's Scottish. He doesn't really speak the language. And so he's trying to piece together what's happened in this country that actually is very foreign, where everyone's very nice, but because people are so nice to you, you don't really know what's going on. Then you have her sister, who has always been the smart one, and who feels this terrible sense of guilt for somehow pushing her other sister away, and feels that she's just got to have done something terrible and that she is in some way responsible for what's happened. And then you have the mother, who has a policy within the family of total honesty, requires total honesty from her husband, and is very, I guess, Scandinavian in that way. You know, completely frank about everything from sex through to, you know, moments where she really just doesn't like her husband very much. And the husband has grown to accept this and to accept that it's a mark of her love. You know, so you have this you have these 3 very different people, all of them trying to understand what has happened to their missing daughter or sister.
Well, Ben, I cannot wait to get into every single aspect about this book because there is so much I'm excited to talk about. But I just want to pause really quick and welcome all of our mystery fans watching live on Facebook. Welcome, mystery fans. Welcome back if you've been here before. Welcome for the first time if you're new here. If you've been here before, you know how it works. And if you're new, welcome. Here's how it works. Every week, I present you featured mystery and thriller authors, and we get down into the dirty details of that book as I put them under my mighty magnifying glass and pry out all of their secrets. Now, the really cool thing about this is that you can ask them questions. Anything you want to know about this book, about their writing process, anything that's weighing on your brain within reason, just go ahead and type it in the comment box, and we will get that question right over to Ben, and he will answer it for you, which is what we love, to give you that unadulterated access. Now, I know it always takes me a moment to think of questions, or sometimes till 3 a.m. the next morning. So while you're thinking, I have got to share just a few words of praise that this book has earned, because you guys, this book is blowing up. The praise has been absolutely incredible. I'm so excited to talk about it. So I have got to tell you, okay, the Daily Mail says Mcpherson displays a rare skill for creating characters with depth in a world that is splintering around them. Wow. Here in the US, Kirkus Reviews, who I think the New York Times called reliably cantankerous, and their praise doesn't come cheap, says Mcpherson's mystery is carefully constructed, a literary house of cards, layer upon layer of revelation increases the tension. Wow, amazing praise from Kirkus. Lisa Jackson, New York Times bestselling author, says this book is fascinating. From the first page, I was hooked. I couldn't put it down. I could go on and on and on, and I may do just that. But Ben, I want to talk about let's just get right into it. How long did it take you to write this book?
Okay, it took me 4 years to write this book. It was my difficult second novel. So
I can relate.
yeah, it's really interesting. It's an old trope, and I kind of guess I thought I'd sidestep it. I kind of guessed that it would be all right. Just it can't be as hard as everyone says it is. But it was hard writing that second book, really hard, because you're a
Yes.
proper author second time round, I guess, and so you're getting deeper into it, and you're realizing all the stuff that you still don't quite know. So I went into this book, I think, knowing a lot less than I knew by the end of it. I think by the end of this book, I was a much stronger writer than I was at the beginning.
What was the hardest part for you?
I think the hardest part was taking something which is rooted in fact, and I still don't know that I've got this right, and trying to make a compelling thriller out of it whilst not behaving exploitatively towards the people involved. So what I'm trying to do is say, okay, in Norway in 2011, there was a horrific terrorist attack. There were 77 people killed, many of them on an island, children, young people, and the killer deliberately targeted young people. Now, what I wanted to look at was what happens when you're in what's supposed to be the safest country in the world, and Norway is a really safe place. There are 25 murders here a year on average, maybe, somewhere between 25 and 30. The average is about 25, 27. So, and on top of that, the police normally have a good suspect for all but 3 of those murders. So if the police clear up those 3 murders, they have a 100% clear up rate. Okay, you are talking about a country where crime is just not in the same order that most of us are used to at all. We have an expectation that things are going to be easy and calm. And then this horrible, horrible thing happens. And so I wanted to write a book about what it is like being in the middle of that, when something really horrific happens, and when you don't understand the country that you're in, when you don't understand the culture that you're around, and where everyone is being so nice to you that it's impossible really to see what the truth might be, because Scandinavia is so nice. It takes a long time to start to figure out what people actually think and feel about things, because it lies quite deep within them. So that was the motivation for writing this book.
Wow.
It was a difficult thing because, as I said, I still don't know I've got the balance right. You are talking about the effects of violence, and you're talking about the effects of real violence on real people. And obviously there are going to be people who find that hurtful, no matter what you do.
Right, exactly. And that's a challenge that writers who either write nonfiction, who write true crime, or who write fiction based in reality face. How to tell the story, because if you don't tell the story, it's going to be forgotten. You want to honor the story, you want to honor the truth, you want to keep it alive, let it not be forgotten, but you don't, as you said, want to behave exploitatively, and you want to to make sure that you're honoring it. So that is a fine line to walk. That is a tightrope between 2 skyscrapers to try to navigate. So wow, that you took on that challenge and did it so well is a credit to you and your ability to do that as a writer. And I want to talk more about it. I just want to get to a few things on Facebook. Gail is saying hello from one snowy place to another. Hugh saying, hey, Nate. Mark says he's psyched for this interview. Leslie Gray O'Neill saying, this is such a great book. Sharon is saying, I was lucky enough to read this early as The Island. Let's pause there. Ben, tell us what's with the different title change. So in the UK, this is called The Island. Can we see that book actually?
Love and Other Lies. In the UK and in the Commonwealth, it is called The Island. So 2 very different approaches to this book.
Yeah.
This one, it's just marketed, I guess, more on the events around it. This one, I guess, is both about the events, but also about the interior life of the family, and I like both. I mean, I think the cover design on this is just incredible, but
yes.
This is also good. There's this, they're both really strong. The Island, I guess, plays on the idea that no man is an island, or no person is an island. The idea of whether or not someone's can be reached or not. Are people ever so far out that you have no chance of talking to them, influencing them. And Love and Other Lies is, you know, about the kind of internal dynamics in the family, which are really big part of this book, you know, how this family copes with what's been going on. So I love, I have to say, both of them. The text is slightly different in this one. There is one major change that I don't actually want to talk about.
Ooh, secrets.
But making that change meant that I had to rewrite really quite significantly. And I don't know which of the two I prefer. I think this one might just be the slightly stronger text. Yeah.
Americans.
Slightly lighter, slightly shorter, and slightly more pacey, I think. You know.
Okay, you heard it here on Mighty Mysteries First. Ben Mcpherson prefers the American version, America 1, UK zip. No, I think, first of all, I just want to say, I think both covers are beautiful. I love them both, but Love and Other Lies is just, it's such a sexy title. I mean, I want to know what the lies are. I want to know what the love is. I need to know more. And I love the cover. Did you get to choose that title, Love and Other Lies, Ben, or?
We discussed it, but titles are really interesting because you work away with one title in mind. You have a working title normally when you're writing. I don't know how it is with you, but both times with my books, the title suggested by the publishing company has been better than my own working title, which is this thing you don't want to hear, but it's true, you know. And so I have to say, in both cases, both of these titles are better than what I was working with. I was working with The Foreigner, which is not bad, you know, it's okay, but these
I
are both
like
better.
The Foreigner, but I just,
Yeah,
I just love Love and Other Lies. I mean, what a blazing good title. It just is
stunning,
so,
really stunning, you know. So this was suggested by the publishing company. They said, so what are your thoughts about title? And I said, well, I have a few thoughts. And they went, yeah, we like this better. We think you will too. And actually they were entirely right. You know, they were completely right. Love and Other Lies is better. And there's a kind of cleverness, I think, as well to the jacket design here, you know, the jaggedness, the, you know, just that feeling both of something really uncomfortable, but because the lies inside that family are huge, you discover eventually.
Ooh. Well, I cannot wait to read it out today in the US. And with our very special partnership with bookshop.org, you can get a copy today, friends on Facebook, and you can support independent bookstores because tragically, one independent bookstore a week has gone out of business worldwide since the pandemic descended. So bookshop.org is working to support independent bookstores. So you can buy the book today and support indies. It's a win-win situation. So grab that today. The link will be in the comments. Sharon saying, I've been lucky enough to meet Ben in person. Hi, Ben. When is number 3 coming?
Well,
Ben, tell us about number 3.
Sharon, hi. I think I know which Sharon we're talking about. Lovely. Sorry we couldn't meet this time round at BoucherCon, but thank you. I am 60,000 words into a book that I think is going to be 80,000 words. So you know, first draft soon, a draft I'm prepared to show people, yeah, a few months, but we're not far off it. So yeah, I hope not so long.
Wow, Ben, so today's your pub day in the US. You're already almost done, 60,000
well,
to
almost
80,000.
done. I mean, I wouldn't dare to claim that after this very, very slow process. But no, this is going to be an easier, this I hope is going to be a book that requires less revision. But I find that for me, a lot of the connections I make come on second draft. You know, I have to have that second draft. I have to have that time just to think about, oh God, okay, I've just seen it. Because I don't have that ability that someone like Lee Child does, just to dash off one draft and say, this is it, okay, folks, this doesn't need any alterations at all. I'm not that kind of writer. I'm the kind of writer who needs a bit of time rewriting my work and just thinking, yeah, okay, yeah. But that's, people work very, very differently. I like rewriting. I actually really enjoy printing, sitting with a pen, going through my manuscript, typing it up onto a computer, just going back to it again, doing it again and again and again. And that to me is where I find the novel. You know, what I have in my computer here is not yet a novel. It's the kind of, it's a story that works and it's characters that kind of work, but it won't mesh until I've sat there and cut it and edited it and cut it and edited.
Ooh, Ooh, I love this perspective. What do you like about rewriting, Ben? Because I hate it. I dread it. I'll do anything to avoid it. Help me.
Really? Okay, no, I love it. I mean, I actually genuinely really like editing my own work. You know, it's because I think because maybe it's because I'm British, or maybe it's because I spent a lot of time in Norway, but I spent quite a lot of time going, this is terrible. I really don't think this is much good. Then I get this thing that looks a bit more like a book, and I sit in front of it and I start to read it, and I think, yeah, actually, I can see this now. There's better stuff here than I realized. And so I think I mean, you know, I would certainly hope I've got rid of a lot of this sort of Scottish self-loathing that we grew up with. You know, in Scotland, we do grow up not liking ourselves that much sometimes. And I think I think Scotland's got a bit less like that now. I think Scotland's a happier, more mature place. And I think I'm a happier, more mature person. But I think the thing that I still carry with me is thinking, this is no good. I can't possibly think I'm a writer. And it's only when I actually sit down and rewrite stuff that I start thinking, yeah, okay, yeah, there is something here. There is a rhythm and a red thread that goes through the whole thing. You know, and that process I really like.
Oh, I love that. I'm starting to wonder if I'm Scottish because I have that self-loathing thing, even though I'm actually Italian.
Don't say that.
Anne is saying, hi, Ben. Lois is saying sophomore. No, Leslie is saying no sign of a sophomore jinx here. Alexander saying fascinating to see the marketing difference between the UK and American version. Alexander, I totally agree. Gail says, Gail would like to know, why do Scandinavians write such dark mysteries, and why do we love these books so much? Sharon, Gail, top community member. That's a great question. Ben, tell us what's going on.
Well, listen, there is something really strange about these countries, okay? Because they look completely perfect when you arrive here, you know, and I think the experience that a lot of people have is you fall in love. I mean, in my case, I fell in love with a Norwegian woman. I came here, fell in love with the country, you know, just thought, this is extraordinary, you know, the person reflected in the country. And, you know, and then you start to notice things not about your partner, but about the country are a little bit strange. And you start to realize that actually, maybe people have been being really nice to you, but you haven't noticed all the little peculiarities about these places.
Ooh.
And then you start to realize that, yeah, they're perfect in many ways, but still, you know, you have these persistent problems. You know, you have alcoholism, you have suicide, you have people leading lives that are difficult, even when they've solved all their social problems. You'd think, you know, they have oil money, they have a welfare state, we don't pay for healthcare, we pay a minimal amount. You know, so all that stuff that should make it really easy to live, makes it easier to live. And people say they're happy, but they also have the highest use of prescription medicines, of prescription, I was going to say happy pills, which is a terrible term. It's not
antidepressants.
Antidepressants, you know, they have the highest use of antidepressants in Denmark and Norway, pretty much of any two Western countries, I think.
Wow.
So very, very high. And you have these long, dark winters. Yeah. And of course, you know, the whole thing is, get out in the winter, you know, go skiing, have a great time. You do as much as you can, but there is just this darkness that seeps into your soul, I think, as well. And I think that that's part of why the detective fiction is very dark. But there are also terrible secrets in these societies. You know, I mean, Norway was invaded during the war, and it's not like Germany, where people have really taken a long, hard look at their country and gone, yeah, we did some terrible things in the war. That process is only really just starting here in Norway. You know, I mean, it's only the last 5-10 years where people have been prepared to take that kind of level of self-examination. And so there's this thing about just pushing secrets away. You know, and, you know, we all have our secrets. Every country has its secrets. But I think there is something that, in the experience of living here, where you start to think, yeah, there's something very dual about this, you know, feels perfect, but there's this queasy sense that things are not quite as perfect, just slightly underneath it.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, I just love the idea of darkness seeping into your soul. I mean, I don't love that idea, but I like your beautiful turn of phrase.
Really what it feels like, you know, it's...
Yes. No, I'm in Boston, and I feel the weight of those cold, dark winters. I mean, it is heavy.
Yeah, you get proper winters there, don't you?
Yeah, by proper, I mean long and miserable, but
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, exactly.
Ben, you're getting so many questions to Facebook, and I want to make sure I get every single one of them, because that's the beauty here, is that people get to talk to you. So N West is saying, would like to know, Ben, how many drafts do you write in total, including notes from friends, from your agent, from your editor, and copy editor? Can you walk us through that? I want to know too.
God, I mean, I'm going to say roughly 8. Okay.
Okay.
But of actual actual deliverable drafts, I would say 3. But in terms of, all of these processes is an important process to me. Each one of them is. So, showing it for the first time to my wife, who's normally my primary reader, that, that's a process and that's a draft. And that's normally the, if I have my drafts and I have then drafts that I show other people, but of my drafts, that's my second draft probably that I show her. And then there's a whole lot of stuff that she's not going to like. And all stuff I get quite angry with her and sort of go off and kind of grumble around for 24 hours. And then I kind of go back and go, yeah, I think you're probably right. And so I would say that, internally, I probably produce about 8 sort of distinct drafts, but of things that a publishing company sees, of course, it's way fewer than that, but yes, there's the rewriting is a hugely important part to me, and it's only really, it's only once I've rewritten quite a lot that I'm prepared to let it go, really, I think.
Yes, exactly. You want to polish that question. So 8 in total. This is a fascinating glimpse.
Yeah. I mean, this is probably going to mean I'd never get employed again. But I would, if there are any publishers listening, 2 drafts. But,
yeah, exactly. In 30 days,
but
one
any
and done.
writers, any writers.
Ben waves his magic wand, and then it's done. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. Trisha is saying happy pub day in the US. Anne is saying it has landed on my Kindle, says this poor and nearsighted old lady. Oh, Anne, you're so sweet.
Oh, fantastic.
We're so happy you have it. Welcome, Melody. Welcome, Jennifer. Welcome, Sumit. Noelle is saying hello, Ben.
Hi, Noelle, and hi, Melody as well, and hi, Sumit.
Yay. Another question. Did you work closely with an editor, or was it self-edited with agents? And who does Ben rely on as a resource throughout writing, which can be a lonely process? This is from Alex.
Right. Okay. So, this is really interesting, because I guess on these 2 books, this one and my previous one, in both cases, HarperCollins in the UK and HarperCollins in the US bought the book, but the first to buy were HarperCollins in the UK. And so HarperCollins in the UK, I mean, I have fantastic editors in both places, and they are both really on the ball. But I guess the bulk of the editing happened probably on the UK version. And then once the UK version was just about right, that then went to the States, to William Morrow, who are also part of HarperCollins. Okay, and this text here then is based very heavily on the UK text, Americanized, obviously, spelling's changed, but also, they have a house style, and they also have editors with really, really good, strong, clear opinions. And so, there was a proper editing process that happened on this book as well, and I have a really fantastic editing team and a really fantastic editor who've worked on this, and I'm very, very grateful, because I think, as I said, it's marginal, but this is just the one that I prefer, by a tiny little margin. This is the one that I prefer, and
a tiny margin that's this big.
but there's this weird thing, because British people in particular, I think, have this tendency to think, oh, anything that's literary is done better in the UK. And actually, in my experience, is that everyone is on the ball, both in the UK and in the States. People are so good at their jobs and so good at finding inconsistencies in your text. I mean, I realized it was only actually once text on one book had been locked that someone found, it was a small thing, but they pointed out that there couldn't have been fruit on this tree at this time. And it was only a few, we were only a couple of weeks out, but, they were just right. So,
Somebody grew up on a farm and knew what they were talking about.
well, they were, I mean, it just, people read really, really closely, and they have the most incredible skill set. So I'm very, very lucky, I think, to have that level of attention paid to my texts.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And I think you're right. And I love that attention to detail. And as someone who grew up on a farm, I would catch that, I hope. Kamin, or I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, Kamin is saying, hi, Ben, I agree. A real writer is made in the edit. I love that. Thank you for sharing the editing process. Welcome,
I wonder
Liz.
if that's Carmen, actually. Hi, Carmen.
Yes, Kamin Mahamadi.
Yes.
Yay.
Great. Hi, Carmen.
Common, perfect. Melody says, hi, Ben. I'm so happy for you and your success. Thank you for writing about complex ideas and people. Melody is raising a good point. You are writing about some complex ideas that are both timely and sadly timeless. Why do you want to write about that, Ben?
Okay, I mean, what's been slightly strange has been watching how topical the book has remained as I've written it. And it was, as I said, it deals with a family's response to a terrorist event.
Yeah.
And then we had a really horrible terrorist event that happened in New Zealand, which was in many ways very like what Norway had suffered several years before.
Yes.
And there's a kind of, I guess the reason I felt compelled to write this book was that I felt that there was more and more of this stuff happening.
Yes.
I didn't particularly want to be proved right on that at all, the opposite. But I spent the entirety of the trial in Norway. I'm not going to name the terrorist, but I spent the entirety of his trial watching someone who was completely at ease with what he had done and completely at ease with targeting people's children.
Yeah.
And who said at the end of the trial, in a speech that he was allowed to make, because in Norway, the accused is allowed to make a speech at the end of a trial before they are judged. And he had 45 minutes to express himself. And he made a speech that was both ridiculous and terrifying, because he was complaining one moment about there not being enough ethnic Norwegians in the Eurovision Song Contest. And people were openly laughing at him. The survivors and the families of the bereaved, the bereaved were laughing at him. And then suddenly he just sort of looked at the court and went, and I want to remind the court, because I've been called a child murderer, but I want to remind the court that the average age of the people I killed was above 18. And something in you just kind of falls away. And that's a moment that you can never quite wash off you. There's something so deeply disturbing about that. And there's something very, very disturbing about his presence. There was something very disturbing about going home to your own family after a day spent watching someone who has deliberately targeted people's families. So I guess something in that experience that meant that I felt compelled to write about it. And I still haven't. It's not that I think it's cathartic to write about it. I don't think I've got it out of my system, but there is something there, and there were things that the trial touched on that I think are really, really important questions. But specifically, what do you do about someone who will laughingly murder children? I mean, there's something about that which I cannot resolve.
No.
Yeah.
No. And no.
So hence, I hope, the complexity. And thanks, Melody. It's lovely to hear you setting that question.
Thank you for that wonderful question. Noelle is saying, this is so fascinating. I once hosted a Norwegian probation officer, and we were in awe of how well the criminal justice system seemed to work over there. Yeah. Noelle, yes, thank you for that. Liz is saying, Mighty Liz, I'm still trying to sign up to get your newsletter. I've tried to email you. We'll get right back to you about that, Liz. Thank you for being interested and wanting to sign up. Welcome, Signa. Welcome, Irma. Anissa, welcome. Michelle says, fascinating to hear you talk about the editing process for both the American and UK versions. I was fascinated by that too. I love to get in there and hear and get a peek behind the tent, inside the tent. Gail saying, I remember when the Norway event happened, truly one of the most horrific news stories I had ever heard, disturbing to this day. Gail, well said. I totally agree. And I think, you know, as hard as it is and as complex as it is, we do need to talk about this, because not talking about it is to ignore the problem, and nothing ever got solved by ignoring it.
I mean, look, you know, I don't want to get too overtly political, but we are in an age of white supremacist radicalism, you know,
Yes.
and that is not going away. We have many possible reasons for why it's happening, but it's, I think, to ignore it and to treat it as somehow just the product of mad people doesn't help, you know, because
No.
these people are not mad. They are convinced of the rightness of their cause.
Yes.
The ones who are successful are, you know, they're not psychotic, because psychotic people cannot plan. They are, they're dangerous, and they have a loose support network, which means that it's very difficult to find them, because they are normally not working in connection with other people. And we need to take this stuff seriously. We need to take that kind of political radicalism seriously, and not write it off as just the behavior of fantasists, unfortunately.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, I think we're all hesitant to be too, you know, as you said, overtly political, but I think we're at a very pivotal point in our world where we actually have to get overtly political, because as Elie Wiesel famously said, neutrality only ever helps the oppressor. Silence only ever helps the tormentor. It never helps the oppressed. And to be silent is to be complicit. So I know I have become very outspoken in the past 4 years in the way that I never would have been or wanted to be or felt comfortable being. But if I will not be complicit, and I will not be, you know, part of the problem. So as a white person, I will be continuing to speak out.
Yeah, and I think that's
thank you
really
for doing
important.
the same.
And I mean, you know, part of this book is about white blindness, I think, you know, and the narrator of this book is far less awakened to the world than I think he thinks he is at the start of the book. You know, he thinks he's everything. He's a former, he is a satirist who is losing his job because he's no longer funny. But he, you know, he thinks he's seen everything. He thinks he's cynically attuned, but he's not listening to people who he really should be listening to. So I think that there's, I think white blindness to this stuff, and a white desire not to take it seriously is really, really dangerous. You know, we have to take it, and we have to listen to what people are saying to us. And we also have to accept that white supremacist terrorists are very often from nice middle-class homes. You know, the terrorists generally are from middle-class homes. You know, Mohammed Attar, middle-class home. You know, all his accomplices. The Norwegian terrorist that I was talking about, middle-class home. So this is something, the kind of standard view of these people is that, you know, they're kind of thugs you might meet on the street. They're not. You know, these are people very much more like us than we would like to think. And that's something that we have to take in and deal with, I think, to get sick of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's our responsibility to sit with our own discomfort and to do that hard work of sitting with our discomfort and working our way through our discomfort and identifying how we can become part of the solution.
Absolutely.
Michelle is saying this is why the subject matter remains so pertinent. Michelle, we agree. Thank you so much. We have just, oh my goodness, we're out of time, but because this conversation has been, I blinked and 30 minutes went by, 35 minutes, we're over time. But because this has been so fascinating, I would just want to open the floor up for any last questions for Ben. Ben, I want to thank you for sharing so openly about the why behind your work, the how behind your work, for giving us that peek behind the curtain. This has been absolutely fascinating. Thank you for sharing with our audience of passionate mystery and thriller lovers and readers here with us today.
Well,
Liz is
thank
saying
you.
she's
This has been
just
a lovely
reserved
way
the
to
book.
launch the book. You know, it's because obviously, you know, we can't travel at the moment. So it's been lovely actually to be able to launch the book in this way and to talk about the book. You know, so
Yes.
wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, exactly. Liz is
Uh,
saying she's just reserved it. She can't wait to get her copy. Jeremy saying lovely to listen to you, Ben. Sharon saying great to hear you and see you. Thank you so much. Gail saying thank you, Sarah and Ben, for this intelligent discussion. Anne saying thank you. Good to see you, Ben. I will likely start the book tonight. Michelle says seconded. Wow, you guys, thank you so much for your presence. And Wes saying thank you. This was lovely. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your mindful presence. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for tuning in and being here for this. Nils saying strong characters and some surprising female twists. I highly recommend it. Thank you, Nils.
Thank you,
Strong
Neil.
words.
Yeah, Norwegian recommendation.
It's
Yes, yes,
Norwegian
I think it's
endorsed.
upstairs in the apartment to of ours.
I love it.
Thank
That's
you.
fantastic. Ben, I want to thank you so much for spending your launch day here with us, your launch day in the US. Hold up the book one more time. Love and Other Lies out
Love and Other
today,
Lies.
available through our partnership with bookshop.org. In the
And we
comments, it
love
is
bookshop.org.
pinned.
They're such a fantastic organization. So
Yay.
good.
And when you finish book number 3, Anthea saying this was great. And Ben, you were great. Christina saying, hi, neighbor, looking forward to reading both. Yay. Ben, you are amazing. Thank you for spending your launch day here with us. Love and Other Lies out today in the US and available through bookshop.org. And when you finish book number 3 in 20,000 words and 8 rounds of edits from now, come back, please, and speak with us. Then we'd love to
Well,
have
Sarah,
you.
thank you so much. It is brilliant. You put me completely at my ease. I was so nervous about this beforehand. So thank you. And to everyone else, thank you so much for having me.
Yay. We'll see you next time right here on A Mighty Blaze coming up at 4 p.m. We have private investigator joining us from London, Ellen McGarrahan. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody, and have a great day.